It's time to have your say. Welcome back to the Q&A. AskSCW is back answering your questions in the wrestling community straight after this. So welcome back once again to the Q&A. Going to be answering questions as always on WWE, NXT, AEW and much more. If you want to be involved on the next episode, you can drop a question in the comment section here today on YouTube. Leave the hashtag AskSCW. I know to use it in the next video and give you a shout out as well. Alternatively, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all should go on your screen right now. You can also contact me on there. But without further ado, let's get on with our first question this week. Kicking things off then with Jamie Holmes asking, do you think there's a residual anger from Vince towards Zelina Vega about the whole OnlyFans Twitch and unionization debacle that led to her release a few months back? Since returning, I don't think she's won a match, and her match was cut this week from SmackDown. Big question to kick things off, and I'd like to think not. I mean, if she's come back to the company, and it should be bygones, shouldn't it? There shouldn't be a situation where there's still unrest or unhappiness from either side if they've managed to work together once again. But you make a good point. Zelina Vega, she hasn't won a match since coming back. Now, this could be the fact that it's a stacked women's roster on the SmackDown side. You look at the likes of Bianca Belair. She did lose to Toni Storm, I believe, in her still only match to date on SmackDown. There's a bit of a confusion why she's not been on TV every single week since. But of course, you've seen Liv Morgan was getting a push as well, going in towards Money in the Bank. So Zelina Vega has been that person that's been putting talent over, and you can't push everybody at the same time. But of course, going off what your question is based on there, you do wonder if there is something underlining still there. As for the match being cut down from SmackDown this week, I mean, of course, there was no women's action on SmackDown this week, and of course, it being, never forget, the 20-year anniversary, the day before 9/11, Zelina Vega, she lost her father in that as well. You'd think if there was one match that shouldn't have got cut from that show, that should have not been the match to be cut. Zelina Vega should have been heavily featured on this show, in my personal opinion. I think that, with the ring gear, she had special ring gear for this occasion. It would have meant a hell of a lot to her to perform in front of Madison Square Garden in New York City on that show. So I'm bitterly disappointed that that was the match that was cut from the show. I'd like to think that there's, particularly with that match being cut, there's nothing to do with that. There was other performers that would have been in that match as well, but still, it does leave a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, I'm not going to lie. And just before we go to the next question, I think it leaves not a bad taste on a lot of people's mouths. I've seen on Twitter the unrest for the second week in a row. We didn't get a women's match on SmackDown. Why is there no women's wrestling on SmackDown each and every week? Now, granted, SmackDown was an awesome show this week. I really enjoyed what I watched, particularly with Edge and Seth Rollins. We saw with Brock and Reigns, and of course the Demon coming in at the end. But there would have been time to fit in a women's match. Now, I would have said the 10-man tag seemed to be the most appropriate match that we could have taken out. And if you really wanted to do the former basketball player, I think that probably played for the New York Knicks at some point, couldn't you have done that with the women's match? Perhaps he could have been supporting on that. I don't know how he would have got involved. Maybe he could have pulled a leg or something, I don't know, and then been ejected from ringside. They could have done that instead, but it was not cool. I mean, it's not just Zelina Vega, like I say. I mean, I think it was going to be a tag team match with her and Carmella. I believe we're going to be taking on Liv Morgan and Naomi. Obviously, they cut the Naomi segment with Sonya Deville backstage after only 2 weeks of doing that as well. So yeah, I mean, for me, I want to see women's wrestling on my TV screen as much as I want to see men's wrestling. So for me, I stand with everybody else. Give SmackDown women a chance. Give them a chance on TV. Let them show what they can do. You've now got more of a stacked roster on your hands. We had a contract signing with Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair, granted, but the only other women's segment I remember was backstage Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Knox going on their tank, going past Paul Heyman for 20 seconds. So we need to see more, in my personal opinion. I think this is the second week in a row as well. If it had been 1 week, I think it would have not been given as much criticism. Maybe it would have been done still with the aspect of Zelina Vega, but at the same time, looking at it next week, I'm sure WWE will address it and probably put them on TV next week, but still, it does leave a sour taste in my mouth, I'm not going to lie. Next question is coming from Supersonic X. With both Raw and SmackDown women's divisions being in a bad shape, is it time for WWE to bring back Asuka? What are your thoughts on Seth Rollins brutally writing Edge off TV? And with Andrade breaking up with Chavo Guerrero, is Ric Flair all elite? Well, let's start things off there with the women's division once again, because we sort of spoke about SmackDown already. Not enough opportunity, it seems to be given, which of course used to be the land of opportunity back in 2016. On Raw, it's more of a creative issue. We're seeing women's matches on Monday Night Raw, thank goodness beyond, because that's a 3-hour show, not a 2-hour show. But at the same time, a lot what we're getting creatively isn't really the best. So, I mean, is Asuka going to fix that? I mean, first off, she's still arm in a sling. I don't know how long it is before she's back and able to get back in the ring, but obviously it will improve the women's division. On SmackDown, you still need to have time to make those matches, to make things work to begin with, but on Raw, creatively, we need better storylines. So, I mean, we have enough women to do so. It's just how they actually used on WWE of how we're going to get more entertainment from it. As for Asuka, though, of course, she is a vital part of the women's division. She has been booked fairly strongly overall during her run with the company. She will be an asset when she's brought back, but of course, which show will she come back to? The WWE draft is scheduled for the start of October. I believe the SmackDown will be on the 1st of October and the Raw one will be the 4th of October. So if she's back before then or for that, we'll probably find out which show she will come back to. As for Edge and Seth Rollins this past week on SmackDown, what a fantastic match to start off by saying. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'd argue and say that's probably even better than the SummerSlam match. That's how good these two were in the ring in MSG, and I think we got the right result this time. Seth Rollins winning. I love the narrative of the storyline, the way that Edge has been written off TV, the way that, you know, the curb stomp, the impact that was made of it, the fact that Edge had to be taken out on a stretcher, the way commentary made a big deal of the situation with Edge's neck and the thing we've all worried about since Edge has returned. I thought this was fantastically done, and of course this will probably lead to Edge taking a bit of time off, and then when he decides to come back, we'll then get the rubber match of Seth Rollins and Edge. So this has been cleverly done of how to write Edge off TV, because he is a part-timer after all. He's not on a full-time schedule with WWE. If I had to predict when I think it's going to be, originally I thought we were getting a rubber match at Extreme Rules, perhaps some form of, I don't know, some sort of gimmick match. We still may do for the last match between these two, but I'm going to predict it's going to be at the Crown Jewel event. So I think Edge probably now going to be off for a few weeks, will probably come back and they'll finish their feud off in Saudi Arabia, and I'm going to predict it's going to be a last man standing match when they do so. And one other little note I'd say, at this point now, a bit of me starts to feel that when Edge makes the comeback, perhaps Edge is going to get the win and win the feud, but we'll have to wait and see as storylines develop when Edge eventually makes his return. And last but not least, with Andrade Idolo, wow, shock, eh? He's already ditched Chavo. So he's gone through Vicky Guerrero and Chavo already. Like you say, the big question is Ric Flair All Elite? I think so. I think that they've tried to find the right partnership for Andrade so far. Kind of been struggling to find that with Ric Flair no longer with WWE. I think that that's what they're going to do, and then from that point onwards, I think Andrade Idolo will get a big push in All Elite Wrestling. It does feel like so far, these first couple of months, it's not really connected as well. It's not like his NXT days. I want to see more from Andrade in All Elite Wrestling, but I think if and probably when Ric Flair does join and is by his side, I do think a big push is on the way. Dylan Ketchum now with our next question now. Since Andrade attacked Chavo Guerrero, do you see the Lucha Bros turning on Pac? Now that would be a turn for the books, wouldn't it? Now, to be fair, I was predicting that there could be an idea of this going into the pay-per-view All Out, but of course that didn't materialise, with Andrade's match obviously being put over to Rampage with the travel restrictions, and the Lucha Bros won the Tag Team Championships in pure babyface form in one of the Tag Team matches of the year against the Young Bucks. So I'm going to say for the time being, no. I think that the fact that Lucha Bros got over so well as a babyface tag team, they finally really got momentum on their side. I can see them remaining babyfaces for a while to come. Certainly it would be interesting, the idea at one point, if they were to turn on Pac, but I don't see it for the foreseeable future. BCC WrestlePod, do you think AEW should introduce another title, and if so, what would that title be? Great question, this one. Well, as I said in the last question, the Lucha Bros shouldn't turn on Pac for the foreseeable future. AEW have a lot of trios, they have a lot of factions, so of course those trios championships would make a lot of sense, and of course they've been rumoured for the longest time, and it would stand out as well because, I mean, yes, ROH, New Japan have those sort of 6-man tag team championships, but obviously when you look at your immediate rival competition now with WWE, that's something they don't have, so it would be something that would make AEW stand out. An alternative idea as well could be something on Dark and Dark Elevation, maybe an Elevation Championship in some sort of format, a superstar that can win a championship there, and then almost like with the X Division Championship in Impact, can actually perhaps trade it in for a championship match on Dynamite or Rampage. That way, someone works their way up those, so rather than just getting wins for no purpose, they actually get a championship and have an opportunity to get themselves and make a name for themselves themselves on Dynamite and Rampage. So that would be another alternative idea that perhaps something that AEW could look at. As once again, it's something completely different to what WWE is doing, so of course that way it makes them stand out from the pack once again. Austin Whitley with the next question now. With the Demon returning, do you think Finn will have a significant push after the Roman feud? I'd really hope so. I'm a big Finn Balor fan. I'd like to see him succeed on the main roster, but I don't know where he's going to go after this feud with Roman Reigns. I mean, of course, now he's the Demon as well, particularly if the Demon loses. He's not going back on the main roster for very, very long, but there is a way to try and perhaps keep him relevant and give him that significant push, and that will touch now onto the next question from Mike, a Tanhabs Mike. Most likely, Balor isn't winning the Universal title at Extreme Rules. How does WWE protect the Demon King, keeping him looking strong? To keep him looking strong, I know this is quick to say this, but I'd actually draft him over to Raw after losing to Roman Reigns. You bring him to SmackDown, you put him in and around that championship picture, a high-profile program with Roman Reigns. Where does he go on SmackDown next? He probably ends up on the mid-card. You look at people like Cesaro, people like that, they've sort of dropped off a bit. On Raw right now, I think they're lacking main event players. So if you put Finn Balor over to Raw in the draft, that way I think you can keep him significant, you can keep him relevant, and perhaps a feud with Bobby Lashley could be good to see over November, December period going into the Royal Rumble, and you've got much more opportunities to have that sort of main event or upper mid-card status for Finn Balor. I think he suits much more being on Raw right now, so that's what I would do to keep him relevant at this point. And of course the other thing, just before we go, is wins. Of course, if he keeps winning, it doesn't matter if he loses to Roman Reigns, because everyone has lost to Roman Reigns at this stage. And of course with the Demon character also losing to Roman, you just try and keep that strong. Each and every time it's brought out after this, don't make it keep losing. You can't let the momentum go for Finn Balor or the Demon after this. Keep him strong, keep him winning, move him over to Monday Night Raw. Let's go to the other question then from Mike at Tannerhabs Mike. We know WWE weddings never end well. Do you think Austin Theory crashes the wedding and turns on Gargano for accepting Dexter to the way? Fantastic suggestion. It's hard for me to go against when you hear a prediction like this, because when you look at with the NXT we're going to get, it's going to be this new NXT 2.0. We've learned in the rumor mill this week that it seems to be more character driven, and of course a wedding of course is always a character driven storyline to see. So that in NXT in itself we haven't seen for, well, many years. I think since when it was like a game show was the last time they went and did that in WWE. So for me, looking at this, Austin Theory making return, that's something I predicted, but to turn on Johnny Gargano for accepting Dexter Lumis, that certainly would be interesting, because the way that would go, Johnny would go back to being a babyface and Austin would get a lot of heat going as a heel as well. And perhaps you've got matches as well with Dexter Lumis, the wedding getting ruined. Certainly would be a fun way if it was to go down like this. So I hope this happens. I definitely already thought that Austin Theory would be a great place for him to return, but to actually destroy the way as well, I think a lot of people would be emotionally invested, would be a great storyline cliffhanger to go on to the next show. I really like the sound of it, so yeah, I hope you're right, Mike, with your prediction. Anthony New with our next question now. Would you like to see one more world title run from Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio and Edge? Great question, this one. 3 former world champions, but I must admit at this stage of the game I think I'd only happily see one of them as a world champion again, and that would be Edge, mainly because he's still presented as like a main eventer. He was in WrestleMania's main event this year. Of course he's taken on Roman Reigns since he's in a high profile program with Seth Rollins. The other two at this point, I'd like to see victories against them mean something, but of course they're not in around that title picture. I mean, Rey Mysterio right now is sporadically thrown in the championship picture still, but of course now he's doing his thing with Dominic, his son, so he's in the tag team division. Jeff Hardy, on the other hand, of course, is in the 24/7 division, sadly, after this week on Raw, and he's lost far too many matches for me to be put in that position once again. But no, for me, looking at it, I would say probably Edge would be my only choice. But that's all for me this week. Thank you for watching as always, and thanks to everyone that's put in their questions as always. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section as well. We can talk about any topic here today that we've discussed on this particular video, and maybe you can get involved as well. Leave the hashtag AskSCW with your question if you want to be included in the next episode. But that's all from me anyway. Check out these videos on your screen right now. Have yourselves a great week, and I'll be back this week as well with another live Q&A, and as well as that, we'll be doing another retro review, which will be Extreme Rules 2012 next Saturday. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching. All the best. Have yourselves a good one. You've been watching Ask SCW here on YouTube.